Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Next Big FM Challenge, Managing Labor Shortages, Recruitment and Retention. I'm Jennifer Getz, the Editorial Director of Facility Executive Magazine, and this webinar is presented by ARC Facilities. Before we get started, I'll cover a few housekeeping items. Please note the control panel on your screen. This is where you can submit questions via the question box at any time. There will be a Q&A portion after this presentation, so please type your questions in there to send them to us. If at any time you experience a technical difficulty, please send us a message via the question section and someone on our team will answer you privately. Also, please note the orange arrow on the left side of your control panel. Clicking on that arrow will either expand or collapse the control panel, so please be sure the panel is expanded so you can access the question box. And if you are interested in continuing education credits, please note that you'll receive a certificate of attendance in an email from Facility Executive after this webinar. You can report to your association for the credit. Now I'll introduce your speaker. David Trask, National Director of ARC Facilities, is a keynote speaker, podcast host, author, and thought leader in the facilities management industry. David focuses on helping hospitals, universities, K-12 districts, and other organizations leverage innovative technology to drive efficiency in the facilities management industry through thought leadership and advocacy. He has presented at numerous facilities, associations, and conferences, including IFMA, ASHE, APA, and NFMT, as well as regional events such as AAHE, HISHE, and regional IFMA chapter conferences. He is also a frequent guest on popular industry podcasts. Most recently, David was selected to be an advisory board member for Facilathon. David is outspoken about the urgent need to minimize the impacts of facility team retirements through seamless and comprehensive succession planning. Hello, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much, Jen. And we're going to jump right in. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. What we're going to talk about today, again, is the challenges with the current labor market, also what some folks are doing with regards to outsourcing, and then also the overall employee morale in facilities. You know, it's been a tough couple of years, and teams are beat up. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to as well is there just aren't enough people coming back into the market or coming into the market to backfill the open skilled trades openings that we see around the country. And look at some of these stats here. In the bottom left-hand corner there's 388,000 jobs posted for skilled trades. Okay, think about that. That is a 50% increase pre-pandemic there. I mean, that's a big number, but also look at the people who are applying for your open positions. I spoke to a guy the other day that told me, I'm getting people that are applying for these different jobs. He had an accountant apply for an electrician's job. I mean, it's people who are just applying for anything. Well, what that means though too is there just aren't enough people coming in. The younger folks coming into skilled trades to backfill all those openings from people that have retired, people who are just leaving to take another job. But this is a great one here, and I'm a huge fan of Mike Rowe and specifically his advocacy for the trades. Okay, and he agrees 100%. You know, a 4-year degree is not for everybody. Okay, and I know a lot of higher ed institutions don't want to hear that, but that's just reality. You know, a 4-year degree isn't for everybody, but also the stigma that skilled trades, you know, are some kind of a lesser career is hogwash. I mean, it's just ridiculous because there are opportunities for people anywhere in skilled trades, anywhere around the country. You can get a job in skilled trades, but this is the stigma here, okay? And I showed this meant to make you laugh, but on the left-hand side here, guy's got a bachelor's degree in philosophy, $100,000 of student loan debt, can't find a philosophy job, believes people without a college degree are stupid. But the guy on the right there, look at there, a 2 or a 4-year, apprentice program here, no debt, none, earns 80, and sometimes it's over that, 100 grand. All right, but just disconnected the other guy's electricity. I mean, that's reality. You can find a job in skilled trades anywhere. I mean, there are jobs everywhere around the country. So the opportunity that's available for people is just nationwide. And I think where we really, again, that stigma that it's not an actual, a promising, successful career, or you're not going to be successful unless you have a 4-year degree is ridiculous, because you can get a job anywhere. But here's the other challenge, though. We want to keep the people that we have. We want to train those people, but again, because we don't have enough people coming in to backfill, there's this hole. So here's the problem that everybody started dealing with a few years ago. People during COVID really reevaluated. The people who were on the fence on whether or not they were going to retire, a lot of them just left. They said, I'm done. I want to enjoy these my retirement years. And I was on the fence about leaving. I'm out. All right. Some folks were offered early retirement packages. I know multiple people, friends of mine, that were offered early retirement packages, and they took it. The other challenge is, again, what we just talked about was the labor shortage. There's help wanted signs everywhere. But again, we don't have enough people coming in to backfill those positions in skilled trades. Then there's a challenge where a lot of orgs are looking at, do I need to outsource? I can't find people to do some of the jobs that I've got open, so I'm going to outsource that. And again, there's a lot of orgs out there that can do some of this outsourcing, and companies are taking a hard look at that. The other challenge is the overall employee morale. I was talking to a guy the other day at a school district, and he was up on a ladder as just a general technician. He was on a ladder in a hallway, all right? And he heard a principal walk by, and he was talking to 2 teachers. And this guy was ranting and raving about, he hated that they were in person again. And he said, I miss the times when I could go walk my dog whenever I wanted to, or I had to put on pants. And the guy who was on that ladder never left. Facilities teams never left. They were on site every day. So it's frustrating to hear that kind of stuff. And to be honest, in facilities, because they never left, they felt like they were beat up. They were doing all this extra stuff and maintaining the buildings while half the team or half the organization was working from home. They were never working from home. So again, morale can be a challenge too. But so let's talk about the retirement side first here. So think about the people who left already on your team. Think about the people who are in that retirement window, and what percentage of your institutional knowledge is in those people's heads? Put a number to it. Is it 4 people? But those 4 people, or even these 2 in this instance, you've got a couple of people here that are leaving. 40% of this team, in this case, I'm sorry, are leaving, but that represents 75% of the institutional knowledge on that team. What's that number for you? So what are you going to do to capture that or pass that legacy information? What's your plan? So again, it's not just the people who have already left, it's the people who are on deck to also leave. What does that mean for you? But again, it's this guy in this picture. How many of these people, look around your team, and how many people on your team are in this window of retirement, and it's coming. So what's your plan? You really have to take a hard look in the mirror and say, listen, if this guy leaves, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to my team? So again, think about that from that perspective, not just, oh, I'm just going to replace him, because you can't replace instantly by just plug and play somebody into this guy's spot and get that knowledge out of that guy's head. I heard from a guy the other day, and I love this quote. He said, if you've been in one hospital, you've been in one hospital. Okay, if you've been in one building and worked in one building, you've worked in one building. Every building is different. Okay, so you have to think like that. People are not, it's not just about replacing the body, it's about replacing the knowledge. That's a big deal. But here's again the issue that's coming, and this is the snowball that started a few years ago. Well, it's been building, but because we don't have enough people backfilling these positions, now the teams are having to do more with less. So it's not just about the people who retired. Think about the people on your team who left to just get another job up the street. I was talking to a guy the other day that he lost his lead electrician and his lead plumber. Both of them got jobs within 10 miles of the facility that they were working at. Both of them left for over $8 more an hour. Both of them. He said, even if I met him in the middle, I'm not even in the game. This is a public sector organization. He can't just up everybody's pay to match what's going around in their backyard. But what that means is now they're down headcount. And that's a big number for him. All right. So again, doing more with less. But then there's the challenge, do I outsource? You know, and some of this stuff you can outsource, and you should look at outsourcing. You know, and that may be some of your regular PM work. Okay. I talk to a lot of hospitals, a lot of schools that are outsourcing just some of their HVAC maintenance because they don't have the people to do it, nor do they have the time to do it. So look at it. Are you outsourcing some stuff now? Am I going to look at outsourcing more? But this is a double-edged sword too. And again, I'm not knocking any of the outsourced agencies, but remember what I said earlier. If you know one building, you know one building. They don't know your building. So even if you outsource, again, you're bringing in somebody just like you hired somebody off the street that doesn't know your building. So again, capturing that institutional knowledge for your building is critical. So that way you're in control. If someone retires, you still have the information. If you hire an outsourcing agency, again, you have the information. But everybody should be able to access that no matter who you bring on board. So you got to really think about it's about the knowledge of the building, staying with the building, not with a person. Then there's this issue. Because a lot of teams are short-staffed, they're racking up the overtime. So again, costs are going up. People are burning the candle at both ends, you know, and they did this through COVID. Overtime, they love the money, but it sucks time away from their family and their personal life. And a lot of folks are really taking a hard look at work-life balance, okay? So if you've got somebody who's really been, you know, burning the candle at both ends, getting a lot of overtime, look at it in the mirror and say, is this person getting burned out? Okay. A person who's on the fence about burning out, or they're close, or you can just tell they're not the same as they used to be, they may be looking for another job. So really ask yourself, you know, what can I do to make their work life better? What are some of those things? And I'll share some thoughts that I've heard from other folks at the end here. But again, really look at that. Again, it's not just about the cost; it's the cost to the well-being and the wellness of your employees too. And then again, we've got the employee morale. You know, when people are burning the candle at both ends, they're struggling. Remember that story I mentioned earlier about the guy on the ladder overhearing a principal in a school, you know, being upset because he couldn't walk his dog, being upset because he had to put pants on to go to work. Come on, these guys did that every day. So look at this, look at your team, and really evaluate how you can lift them up. You know, what are some ways that you can make their life better, right? And I'll share some of that some thoughts on that here at the end too. But remember, when those people who do know where everything in your building, when they leave, what that means is they're the people who can stop some of this from happening. That picture in the bottom right-hand corner is somebody I talked to a few months ago, right? That's a hospital, critical care facility in the Southeast US. That water happened in 45 minutes. Think about that. 45 minutes, that happened. Well, what if that happens in your building? I don't care if you're a school, you're an office building, it doesn't matter the building, your hospital, whatever. If that happens in your building, who knows where all the isolation valves are? If it's one guy or two people, what if they're gone? What if they're on vacation? What if they retired? What if they got another job? Okay. What does that mean to your business? You're not going to be up and running the next day if that happens in your facility. But if you've got one or two people who know where that stuff is, those are single points of failure. All right. Think about that. Single points of failure. If you're relying on the memory of one person, two people, three people to know where isolation valves are, That's a problem. Everybody should know where this stuff is. Everyone. So documenting that information is a big deal, but now here's the other challenge. So because I'm short staffed, because I've lost a lot of folks, or I'm losing folks to whether again they're retiring or they're taking another job or whatever the case may be, I'm hearing oftentimes a lot of what we used to do as preventative maintenance is now getting shoved into deferred. Well, deferred, and I was talking to a guy at a conference, this was the end of last year, he said, you know what deferred means, right, Dave? He goes, it means it's not going to get done. They're just running it till it dies. They're running equipment until it's end of life, and they're just running it until it fails. Well, if that's the goal and that's the mentality at your org, that's a problem because now you don't know when it's going to fail. And with the supply chain issues that we have right now, good luck. It's tough to get, look up, call your vendors and try and find a chiller. You're talking, 50, 60-week lead times in some cases. Okay, if not more. I talked to a guy the other day, a generator manufacturer, they're on an 18-month wait list. So can you afford to be down because you're running this stuff to failure? If it fails tomorrow, what are you going to do? Can you even find parts? Can you even find a new unit? That's not a preferred method to operate your buildings. But what that means also is because the supply chain issues that we're seeing right now are so bad, we're seeing increases in costs of even new construction are going up, a quarter, if not more. So think about your construction projects that you've got going on. It's hard to even find out what the actual costs are going to be, those increases because of some of these challenges too. So again, it's a challenge. But the other challenge is, again, because we have so many different renovations going on in buildings all over campuses, all over sites, it's a moving target for your facilities team. So even if I captured the legacy knowledge of some of these people, the buildings are still changing. They're constantly changing. So what that looks like is something like this. Every one of these rules of drawings is a change to your building. So look in your plan room, look on your share drive, wherever these drawing sets are, each one of those projects means something's changed in your building. If your expectation is that your team is going to remember all of these changes, you guess again. They probably forgot more than they can remember. I mean, changes to buildings happen all the time, not just projects. Your team makes changes to the buildings. So each one of these, if you're relying on someone's memory to know what changed in the building, again, like I said, good luck. But you have to document this stuff so that everybody can find stuff. And look at something like this. So imagine, where is all your equipment in a building? It's all over the place. So having access to know where that stuff is a big deal. And again, you shouldn't have to pick up the radio and call Bob or Carl or John or Betty or whoever that's been with the team for a number of years to ask them where something is. Everybody should know where it is. But that's a problem. Today, I bet you don't know. And equipment is all over the place. But think about it from this perspective. When something gets swapped out in your building, how are you updating that? And I always ask that question to people, when you swap out a unit, how do you know that somebody's updated it in your database, your equipment database, your CMMS, whatever systems you're using, how do you know that they're updating that? And I'll use this example. I was up on a roof, and this is one part of the roof that I was actually on with my team. We're mapping out equipment locations, and when we were up there, the total, this doesn't show scale here, obviously, because if you pan to the right, pan to the left, there's equipment all over the place. But our team had gone out and mapped out equipment locations probably a year and a half ago. In that year and a half, there were over, I think it was 180 units on this roof. Now, you've got a bunch of exhaust fans, a bunch of AHUs and things like that up here on this roof. But again, all over the place. Out of those units, roughly 25% of the units that were on that roof have been swapped out in a year and a half. Think about that. Okay, we compared that to their existing equipment database, And out of those, I think 4 pieces of equipment were updated. People are running around trying to fix stuff all the time. So how accurate, again, is your equipment database? And are you sure? So this is what we typically see in a work order system. And yours may be a little bit different than this, but look at all those holes, okay? These holes are represented by equipment that's been swapped out, okay? By, they replaced a unit, maybe this is some of it's the old units, whatever, but this is missing information, all right? It should look like this, all the information about that unit. The problem is a lot of this information is in somebody's head, or they know the location of where it is. They didn't have time to update something in the work order system. They didn't have time to update stuff in my spreadsheet, whatever the case may be. But having a field verified list that's up to date. So if I swap out an exhaust fan on a roof, I should be able to pull my phone out of my pocket and update it live while I'm there, and then everybody sees it. Okay, can you do that today? If you can't, that means you're working with outdated information. All right, that means the new guy or the person who's been there for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, or even the person who's been there for 30 years is working with outdated information. That's a problem. It's a waste of time. But again, you have equipment all over the place, all different types of equipment in your buildings, all over the place. But a lot of times I'll see people are up and down ladders multiple times, popping ceiling tiles, climbing up a roof ladder, whatever, popping roof hatches, all right, trying to go up there and figure out what the unit was, what unit serves what areas, all right, because they don't have information about what's swapped out, all right. But then there's this, again, that run to fail. There's a lot of equipment out there that looks like this, right? And this is everywhere. I'm not judging anybody. I mean, this is just kind of the way it is. All different types of equipment, weathers, some of it's out in the weather, some of it's in a closet, some of it's just old, depending on the facility. But again, a lot of this equipment's being run to fail. But then there's the other challenge of, remember, some folks on your team are the ones that know where all those hidden things are. All right, the things that are tucked away. They know what ceiling tile to pop. They know, if you go up here and you pop this ceiling tile, you're going to find the isolation valves for these rooms in this section of the building. Or they know where those little pot water heaters are. All right, all the information for your building should be accessible by everybody. They shouldn't have to guess. All right, we were on site. This is about a month ago. We were on site at a facility. And they didn't know which ceiling tiles to pop to map out all their fan coil units, all right? So our team was out there and we had 3 ladders, had 3 guys, 3 ladders, popping ceiling tiles, poke our head up there, look around, and all they had is a dot on a ceiling grid, 1 dot. Well, which tiles do you pop? I have no idea, right? Which side's the filter? On average, they were taking, 20 minutes to even find the unit because you're popping this tile, popping that tile. And then trying to access this stuff too. The unit where you need to get the information from, it's on the tile that's a half tile up against a wall. Well, you can't even access it from there, so you have to go into the office next door, yada, yada. You understand? Stuff's all over the place. So wasting time trying to figure out where this stuff is a big problem. But then there's this. Again, it's the guy on the team who knows where everything is. So you pick up the radio, you pick up your cell phone, you start calling Carl. Carl's the guy who knows where everything is. Carl's been with me for 35 years, right? Well, Carl knows where every AHU is. He knows where every mechanical room is. He knows where those pot water heaters are that are in that little room, that little closet that's off of the electrical room on the 3rd floor. That, it's just a little closet over there that's not even on the plan because nobody updated it. All right. You're relying on one person, single points of failure. All right. Because if Carl wins the lottery tomorrow, Carl's not coming to work. All right. All that knowledge walks with him. But then he's also the guy, when something goes sideways in the building at 3 o'clock in the morning, he knows where the isolation valves are. Well, what if Carl's on a cruise ship? His cell phone doesn't work. What if he is on a vacation up in the mountains? Cell phone doesn't work. If you're relying on somebody and you're expecting this guy to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning too, remember, single points of failure. Why can't the security guy know where this stuff is? Why doesn't, your night shift guy who's brand new, why doesn't he know where this stuff is? Again, it should be that way, accessible by everybody. But Carl's also the guy who's been there for 35 years that knows what changed on the building over time. So again, he's been there. He was there. So if your expectation is he's going to remember all the changes that have happened in your building, and if you've got multiple buildings, good luck. I'm working in a school district this week. We have 50 schools. You've got plumbers, you've got electricians. You expect those people to remember everything in 50 schools? Come on. That's not realistic. But what are you going to do when he walks into your office, sits down in the chair across from you, and says, I'm tired. COVID kicked my butt. My wife and I are going to be retiring. We're going to start traveling. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's usually one of two things. I knew it was coming, and I'm preparing somewhat for it. Or it's, I had a feeling it was coming. I didn't know it was this soon. Or it's the deer in the headlights, right? Oh my goodness. My worst fear is today. I talked to an executive the other day, and he said, one of my facilities directors actually has a timer on his computer, and the timer is his date and time to when he's going to retire, right? It's now less than a year. Okay, and it's on this guy's computer. And I said, what's your plan? And he changes the subject. Changing the subject it's not an answer. It's kicking the can down the road. But what are you going to do if all of a sudden that timeline speeds up? You're relying on one person. You're relying on a handful of people. You got to be proactive when you think about this stuff because they're not going to be there forever. So here's the flip side of that. I have a new person who starts last week, right? She walks in. Why can't she access all the information that one person knows? Think about that. How much is your ramp up time for this person? What's your training timeline? A lot of times I hear it's 6 months to 18 months. I've heard from multiple people that tell me it takes a year minimum just to get to know the buildings, and that's just a handful of buildings. Imagine if it's 50, right? You're expecting somebody to get up to speed quickly. Well, imagine all their equipment, imagine all the shutoffs, imagine everything there is to know about that building. Your expectation is that person's going to be up to speed in a year? Good luck, right? Good luck. And what if this person doesn't last a year because they got another job up the street making more money? All right, I heard something from a guy the other day. He said, I lost one of my general maintenance people. He got a job at Amazon warehouse making $3 more an hour than I can pay. Okay, the guy had been on the job not even a year. That's what you're up against today. But it's not just about losing the people. Remember, it's about losing the knowledge, losing the information. All right. And this is what you really got to put it in that type of perspective. It's not about the person. It's about the knowledge of the building. All right. Unfortunately, people come and go. So if you're relying on a person, that person and your expectation that person's going to stay forever, it's not going to happen. I hate to break it to you. It's not going to happen. But capturing that information is key here. So again, I post these up here because you can fill in your own blanks here, but where's the X? Whatever X is, I didn't know that was there. I mean, all of these are real life quotes from people that I've heard in the last year. It's where is X? How do you find X? And this could be the new person on your team asking this question, or this could be even the person who's been there for 15 years, 20 years. They don't know where everything is. All right. So accessing the information or documenting where this information is, documenting where stuff is in your building is critical because now everybody just goes and does their job if that's documented. They can go fix stuff. Do what you hired them for. Let an electrician be an electrician, a plumber be a plumber. Go fix stuff instead of spending hours trying to find stuff, trying to call somebody to figure out where something is. All right. But everybody's got this kind of stuff. All right. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he literally said, look for the stains in the ceiling tile. That's where the unit is. All right. I was on site again. I'm in a school district this week. I was on site earlier this morning, and we were on a scissor lift in a library because there are 4 fan coil units in the ceiling, and it's about 2 stories. Okay, so we're in this library, navigating the scissor lift between the rows of the bookshelves. Right. And honestly, I'm a firm believer that sometimes architects don't think about the maintenance side, or many times they don't think about the maintenance side. Equipment is put in positions where you can't access it to change filters and things. But we must have maneuvered between these lanes, and there were inches on each side of the scissor lift as we're going between these bookshelves. And we still popped 3 or 4 tiles trying to find the actual unit. Right? There were 4 in there. We were in there for an hour and a half, just trying to find the units, right? Why? Why aren't those documented? All right, look at the photos on the left-hand side, the top and the bottom on the left-hand side. You've got an electrical panel that's in a cabinet right there. If I'm the new person, how am I going to know that electrical panel's in that cabinet? Okay, and then you've got the photo on the bottom right-hand corner there, the little splits, little mini splits. Those are all over the place. So where's the other half of that? Where's the condenser side of that? Right. This is in a data room. But where's the condenser? Is it on the roof? Is it outside? Which side of the building is it on? You understand? This is time. All right. These units go down. I've got electrical panels all over the place. Does everybody on your team know where these are? Every time I'm walking with somebody, every job that we go out and we're mapping out where locations are, I'm walking with an electrician or a plumber, and every single time it's, oh, I didn't know that panel was there. I've never even worked on that panel. How long have you been here? 26 years. Really? It's impossible for them to know where all this stuff is. So how do you bridge the gap between the old guard, the people who have been there forever, and the new? All right. Well, it starts right here. Get rid of this garbage here. Okay. This is a history of your building. Right. This is the history of your building. Right. All of these represent changes to your building. You can see the old blue lines. There's old Mylars, there's stick files, but look how shredded they are. These are not going to get any better over time. They're going to get worse. These are being handled, all right? Or they're buried in boxes like you see on the right-hand side. I show these pictures often to people that I talk to, and they say, oh yeah, how'd you get a picture of our plan room? Come on. It's 2023, people. Why are you digging through paper like this? It's 2023. But this isn't any better. So I get a bunch of thumb drives, or I get CDs, or I get an email with a link to download this stuff, and I dump it on a share drive someplace. And where's the drawings for the 3rd floor? I haven't got a clue. I look at this and it's a mess. And then what if somebody accidentally goes in here and deletes them? They're gone. This isn't any better than that. All right. So think about it. These here also represent changes to your building. So where are the drawings? What buildings are these for? I haven't got a clue. All right. So this again is no better than this. So just because you scan stuff in too, doesn't mean you can find it. If it's not organized, if it's not named. So then what do you end up doing? You end up calling Carl, calling Bob, because they were there. All right. Or you try to get a hold of that guy who just retired because he remembers what moved. All right. It's a challenge. You have to start documenting where your stuff is today. Start. You have to. All right. Every one of your team, I don't care if it's a guy who's been there for 50 years or 40 years or 30 years, however long that person's been there. The longest I've heard tenured employee at one office, it was 51 years, and the guy has no plans on retiring. All right, think about that. One guy, 51 years, he's been there. He started when he was in high school, right? He knows where the bodies are buried. He's been there that long. But think about that. Your building's 100 years old. He wasn't even there when some of this stuff was done. You have to start documenting where your stuff is. But the other thing too is even that guy who'd been there for 51 years has a smartphone in his pocket. Everybody has one today. These guys are carrying iPads too. iPads are cheap, people. Document where your stuff is. Document where everything is so the new guy and the guy who's been there forever, everybody knows where everything is. And it's an evergreen. It should be flexible so that you can add as things change. Things are changing in your building all the time, right? So imagine having all that equipment accessible everywhere, wherever you're at. I'm on a roof, I'm in a mechanical room, I'm in an electrical room. I go from building to building, and you can access everything from your phone, everything from your tablet in the field, okay? In the field verified. So as your team pops a ceiling tile and they find something, they can take a picture of it, put a pin on a floor plan showing exactly where it is, and capture all the information about it, make, model, serial number, all that stuff. Everybody now is looking at the same stuff, current, today, all right? This is an example of what one company had done, College of Sequoias. They captured all the stuff inside. So they actually documented all the stuff inside this room, desks, all the outlets, everything for these different classrooms. They actually captured what was in the space, took photos, took videos of what this space looked like. And as they change, they take new photos, right? But they can document what's in the space. Then they also did this. They mapped out, it's not just the stuff inside the buildings, it's the stuff between the buildings. So imagine all your sewer cleanouts, all of your electrical boxes, everything's in the ground, all right? Mapping out where that stuff is, all your sprinkler heads, all of that stuff can be mapped out between the buildings too. You can also put in information about what those things serve. So you got, in this case, you can see here's some irrigation valves, electrical pull boxes, all this different information, hose bibs, all of that information is all documented. Now everybody knows where this stuff is. And even photos of that information, you can put notes in here. Again, you can record videos. In those videos, what's beautiful about recording a video is it's in your words. It's in the person's words who knows where that is. Who, listen, we found this, it was behind a shrub, and we actually realized that this also serves buildings 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. You understand? But it's all in, it's out of that person's head, and everybody now knows where this stuff is, right? So let's take a look at what that could look like. Okay, and again, in a real world scenario, you should be able to grab an iPad or your phone and go right like this. So click on an app, all right? Go to a particular building, all right? Click on all the drawings for the building here and see what drawings touch what part of a building, every individual part of a building, what parts of the floor. Tap on it and have access to where that stuff is, all right? All the legacy changes to your building, having access to that. Or think about it from the equipment standpoint, same thing. Just go to your piece of equipment, walk up to it, and imagine every piece of equipment has a QR code on it. You scan that QR code, and now you can see all the information for that particular unit. You can see the manuals, you can see parts lists, you can see checklists, you can see everything associated with that piece of equipment. All right, everything from my phone, in the field, current. Right? The same thing with shutoffs. You got shutoffs all over the place. All right. Again, click on an app, click on a building. Accessing all the information for this. Click on a button that actually says shutoffs. Okay. Don't make it rocket science here. Shutoffs should be listed under shutoffs. Tap on it. Here it is. Access to the your actual backflow. Where is it? It's right outside the building's northeast corner, all right? Access to that information wherever you are, okay? New person, I'm the person who's been there for a long time, all right? Everybody has access to it. If you find a new one, add it. Everybody has access to that information. So what I'm really trying to drive home here is you can't wait. You have to start capturing this information. Every day that you wait is one day closer to that person leaving. Think about that. Every day that you wait is one day closer to that person leaving. So what are you waiting for? Take advantage of being able to recruit, okay, and some resources I'm going to share in a minute. But really look at ways that you can recruit people. What are some of the ways that you can incentivize people to stay as well? But also look at technologies that you're using today, but also more importantly, look at what's available that you haven't even looked at, all right? But at the end of the day, with regards to technology, if it's not easy, your team will not use it. I cannot stress that enough. If your technologies that you're using today are a pain in their behind and they can't use it or they get frustrated using it, they will stop using it. It has to be easy. All right. I was just talking to a guy the other day and I was asking him about his mechanical equipment. And he said, oh, I've got some of my stuff in my automation system. And I said, okay, that's great. What's your electrician, what's your plumber doing too for other stuff? Oh, they're using a spreadsheet over here, or they're doing this. Well, what about your VAVs and what about your VFDs? Oh, those aren't even in this other system over here. Those are over here. Well, wait a minute. Are they over there? Hey, Bob, are they over in this? Oh, no, they're not. Well, how are we managing that? Oh, we don't have a way to do that? You see how that conversation just went? Multiple areas, no one's communicating, and what that means is information's all over the place. Wasted time. Wasted time. So here's some resources for you to really consider, okay, looking at. This is for recruitment. This is also for ways that you can look at other ways to manage things, but trade orgs are a big deal. Obviously, IFMA, ASHI, APA, there's others out there as well. But look at trade publications on best practices that people are doing out in the field right now too. Are you looking at any kind of an intern program? Are you starting a grassroots program? I love these. Or high school internship programs. Bring some kids in from your local schools that you think might be interested in looking at trades. Start at a grassroots level. Facilithon does some great things nationwide to promote high school kids coming up that are interested in trades. All right. Look at apprenticeship programs. Are you doing any kind of an in-house apprenticeship program? Ask your team. They have family members that are interested in trades? Train them in-house, move them up. Have you partnered with any of your local trade schools or community colleges? A lot of trade schools around the country or community colleges around the country have great programs for HVAC, electricians, plumbers, right? Even generalists, you can pull some people in. What kind of partnerships are you doing with your unions, with your local unions, right? Are there ways that you can work with your union on some apprenticeship programs? Are there ways that you can offer some of those people who are about to retire, switching even a job classification within a union and maybe putting them on a 3 or a 4 month program where they even get a little bump in pay, but because they're reclassified, you can keep them and capture some of that institutional knowledge before they retire, right? Are you doing any kind of cooperative partnerships with others within your industry that are in your backyard? Look at job fairs. Are you doing in-house job fairs? Are there other job fairs that you can participate in? And the last one there is near and dear to my heart, military. Have you reached out to your local recruiters? Have you reached out to your local military installations about pulling some of those people who are transitioning out of the military into your sites? All right. Military are fantastic. There's some great people you can hire out of the military and plug right into your system and right into your team that will be great assets moving forward. Also, think about women in trades. All right. We have an article series that we're doing on women in facilities. women, I think, can fill a huge gap in being able to fill some of these open positions. And like I said at the very beginning, all right, there's a void that can be filled by any number of people, but women in facilities is near and dear to my heart. All right. My daughter is interested in being an engineer, and I love that. Okay. But there is a big, huge opportunity for you to be able to leverage that in your sites as well. Also, ways to boost employee morale. Have you considered any kind of a recognition program? Also, are you able to do any kind of a bonus program with your team? Additional PTO, I've heard that offered for some folks. You know, your team is burning the candle at both ends. They've been burned out over COVID as well. Have you thought about flexible schedules? Maybe 410s, okay? Maybe doing some split shifts. Get creative when it comes to thinking about schedules, because that shows you're flexible, right? Encourage your team to give you feedback. Some of your best things that you can implement will come from your own team, and things that you never even thought about, right? Build a huge culture of positive thinking, all right? You want your place to be you want to be a preferred employer, all right? You want your team to be happy. You want your team to be, happy employees do more work. They get more work done, right? Organize team building activities. What are some of those things that you can do with your team? I heard this from a guy the other day. He said, I never saw the value in a box of donuts more than I have over the last couple of years. All right. Having a once a month, once a week coffee break where the whole team comes in and you guys just talk. Open forum, right? Prioritize your mental health of your team. All right. Your team again has been burned out, I should say. And it's tough right now. All right. Really focus on building your team up. I heard from a guy the other day that told me, he said, I've never had to sing the praises of the guys who showed up more than I have today. Right? I mean, really focus on their mental health. Raise these people up. Ask about them. Ask how they're doing. Right? Encourage employee development. What are some of have you considered even a ladder type program for advancement with your team? Right? There's nothing that motivates people more than the opportunity to advance their career, make more money. All right. What are you doing for your staff? So let's open it up to some questions here.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for this presentation, and thank you to all our attendees for sending in questions. We'll now have some Q&A to address the questions that you have sent in, and please to continue to submit any questions that you might have. Okay, so to start off, when the tenured engineers slash facilities techs are gone, so is the native language of the buildings. So how are you enabling your existing engineers or facilities techs to be efficient day to day with accessing critical building information?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's got to be a proactive approach, but sometimes it's too late. They've already left. So building off of that, you have to think about it this way. You have to get started, all right? And I highly recommend you get started today. You can't wait. So capture as much of that information as you know right out of the gates. But again, it has to be evergreen. However you're doing this now through our platform anyway, you can build off of that. All right. So as your team finds stuff, they should be able to add it. If I pop a ceiling tile and I'm working on smoke detectors and I turn my head around and I see, wait a minute, there's an isolation valve right behind me. I may not even know what it serves or what it shuts off, but if I can document that it's there, all right, I'm not going to have to hunt when it's an emergency next time when something's going sideways. I'll at least know something is right there. So as your team finds stuff, and again, you're not going to find everything right out of the gates, right? But set that baseline and really start capturing what you do know today and then build off that moving forward.
Perfect. Absolutely. We have one gentleman asking, we've been trying to fill open positions for over a year. How are the orgs you work with tackling that?
Yeah, I've heard open positions. I've heard managers' positions that have been open for 18 months to 2 years. I think where it really comes down to is what are you doing to attract new hires? Is it a money thing? Is it, you got to really look at and evaluate where with your leadership, okay, where are we with the current pay scales in my backyard? If you're not in that window of you're $10 off, $5 off, $3 off what the average is in your backyard, it's going to be tough for you to backfill some of those positions. I think where I've seen the most success with, especially with leaders in the facility space, facilities directors, VPs of facilities, is also work with your C-suite. Okay, they know that the labor market is what it is right now. All right, but you need to work with them to figure out what you can do to attract people. Sometimes it's signing bonuses. Sometimes it's you offer them additional PTO as part of their onboarding or their sign-on bonus or whatever that package is that you're putting together for them.
Perfect. I have another question here. How do you recommend we go about capturing the knowledge of our tenured staff?
Yeah, I cannot stress this enough. It's document, document, document. You have to find the information. You have to have people, the new people on staff, also walk with your people to really get to know your buildings as fast as you can. But it's not just that simple, because in facilities, it's an emergency half the day. They're running around like crazy trying to fix stuff, put out fires all day long. All right. But again, document, document, document. Document where stuff is as you find it, but have a proactive program, a proactive plan to capture stuff. If you've got somebody working on the third floor and they're working in an electrical room, or they're in a mechanical room, or they're popping, like I said, ceiling tiles, and they find stuff, have them spend an extra 10, 20 minutes and document additional stuff that's in that room. All right. If they change things out on a regular basis, or they change things out from time to time, you swap out a pump motor, you swap out whatever, have a program and question that, was that updated in our system? If it's not, make them go back and do it right then and there. Your immediate response is, if something needs to get swapped out and you're going to go change something, you're going to go work on an exhaust fan and you end up having to swap it out, your next words out of your mouth when they say it's done, did you update it in the system? If the answer is no, make them go do it. All right. This starts with you. You have to make them do it. I guarantee you, if you make them climb up that roof ladder again after they just climbed down because they didn't document it, they're going to do that twice before they remember, I have to document this. All right.
Right. Okay, we have another question here. We are an O&M company that provides services to the government, and their requirements of minimum years of experience is unrealistic for hiring new people. How do we overcome this, and how do we change the mind of the government when it comes to bringing in newer people?
Yeah, it's like trying to steer the Titanic with an oar. I think it's tough. It can be tough, especially with government agencies to change that mindset. I often see ads that people post for a position that requires a bachelor's or a master's degree, and you have to get them to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, listen, would you rather have somebody who's worked their way up and has real world field experience, field knowledge, or are you relying solely on a degree or solely on a specific certification? Okay, because it's not black and white like that. I think with the government, it can be even, as I mentioned, it's a challenge when you're in the government space, because it's tough to make that kind of a change. But remember, they're in the same boat as everybody else right now. All right. They're seeing the labor shortages. I mean, they're seeing that the hiring is that timeline is extended, trying to even find somebody. I think it's all really comes down to communicating with them and working on a proactive plan to address that. A lot of times in government, they can't offer any kind of a signing bonus or something like that, but they may be able to be flexible with other things. And those could be those benefits, the PTO or any number of other different flex schedules or things like that. Again, it's kind of a delicate one when you're talking to when you're talking about government agencies, but it's similar with some of the other things that I mentioned. It's a conversation, and it has to be open dialogue.
Perfect. Another question here is, do you have any savings metrics or case studies for the time spent finding equipment versus implementing a more robust CMMS tool or ARC?
Yeah, I mean, their industry stats. I don't remember the resource, but they're stats that show that teams are spending between an hour and 2 hours a day trying to find information to do their job. Now, when I say an hour to 2 hours a day, that's not just flipping through paper, flipping through a hard drive, or I'm sorry, a desktop computer or something like that. That's going up on the roof, climbing back down, jumping in the golf cart, running back to the site, wherever the stuff is. Um, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to a time savings from the standpoint of how much time does it take me to go physically from location to location, as well as those other factors of going up a ladder and all of that. It's not always just digging through the documentation. It's trying to find simply the location of where stuff is. You know, I talk to guys all the time that say, my gosh, it took me an hour and a half just to try and find that unit. All right. That means that's an hour and a half not to work on the unit. That's just to find the unit. And there's so many different variables when it comes to that. Is it a multi-story building? Is most of the stuff above ceiling? Is it on the roof? Is it outside? Is it inside? There's way too many factors to give you a specific on that. Obviously, in healthcare, especially in hospitals, there's a lot more complex system than there is an office building. So remember what I said earlier. If you know one building, you know one building. Every building's different, so it's hard to give you an exact number when it comes to that. But some of the industry stats that I've heard are between an hour and 2 hours, plus just trying to find the information to do their job.
Perfect. And I think we have time for just about one last question.
Certainly.
I have four guys scheduled to retire in the next 6 months. How do you
Mhm.
recommend we start?
Today. That's how I recommend you start today. At the end of the day, document it in. You got to start documenting it today. All right. Now, again, you can reach out to me directly here. My contact information's on here, but you've got to start documenting this information. You've got to start planning for the exit of these people, because it's coming, and it's coming quickly. And I really don't want to see you get left in a lurch, so to speak. I mean, you've got to start documenting where this stuff is. Our system, we actually map everything out on floor plans. Sometimes those are going to be life safety drawings, whatever's the most recent drawings for your building, floor to floor. But documenting where this stuff is key. But also capturing the other ancillary information that's important for that. You know, you can even attach all of your PMs to it. You can attach make, model, serial number, videos to it, links back to your CMMS, links back to other systems that you're using. But again, all in one spot, so everybody's looking at the same stuff. One of the things that we also do, and you heard me mention earlier that we're out field verifying equipment at a school district this week. All right, we're physically comparing that to an existing database of equipment records. We're going out in the field and matching it up. We're adding any new equipment that was swapped out. We're adding, deleting any equipment out of the database, or creating it so there's a unique field that shows that this equipment is gone. But field verifying what's really in the field. All right. I've heard everything from 10% to 40%. 40 is the highest that I've heard of the accuracy, or inaccuracy is a better way of putting it, of equipment databases. All right. Well, how are you expecting your team to react when something's going sideways, or go fix something in your building when you don't even know if they're going to go out there with belts for a unit that it says it's in your system, but yet they get out there and it's been swapped out 2 years ago and no one updated it in your system, right? Again, Those are time sucks. It just sucks the time out of your team's day. All right. So again, accurate information is key.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it looks like we are out of time. Thank you again, David, for sharing this presentation with us
My
today.
pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you to ARC Facilities for sponsoring this webinar, and of course to our audience for attending today. A recording from today's session will be made available on our magazine's website, facilityexecutive.com, and at arcfacilities.com as well. Thank you and have a great afternoon.